Part 184. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geolan 2020. Chapter 1836. Chapter 1831. Greet, I want to go home, I want to go back to Nevis. The emergence of a highly influential result can always drive a large number of researchers to develop various detailed topics and make contributions. Hemostasis, thrombolysis, reduction of intracranial pressure, MRI scanning of brain cells, regenerative surgery for targeted repair. After the series of combination punches proved useful for advanced meditation, as the editor-in-chief of the journal Life, Greet quickly received a large number of papers. Treatment is not effective for brain cell regeneration. Oops, this is good, someone finally did an experiment. Greet opened the paper with great interest, and soon, the corners of his eyes twitched as he read. Cut the rabbit's scalp, remove the skull flap, cut the blood vessels under direct vision, and let the rabbit's brain bleed. After waiting for half an hour, we observed under direct vision that some of the brain cells turned black and collapsed. We took samples and observed that the brain cells were dead. Release cure serious wounds twice and cure fatal wounds twice. Under direct vision, it can be seen that the cut blood vessels have healed and the blood supply has been restored, but the damaged parts of the brain tissue have not grown back. Who designed this experiment to be so tough? Simply lift the cover and look directly at the damaged brain cells to see the treatment effect. The whole thing has a necromancer style. Oh, the author of the paper is really a necromancer. The priest of the temple of the god of war will follow the healing spell, so it will be fine. Looking further down, there are more. I hammered the rabbit's head once, waited for an hour and then removed the skull flap under direct vision. It was observed that part of the brain tissue collapsed and brain cells died. Remove dead brain cells, treat serious injuries twice, treat fatal injuries twice, and observe that the damaged brain tissue does not grow back. Stab a dagger on the rabbit's head. Remove the skull flap and remove part of the brain tissue. Sheep. Pig. Monkey. Very good, we have already done it on monkeys, but don't go to great lengths to do human experiments. No, they really did human experiments. To be precise, the necromancers used the stored corpses to try to condense negative energy and see if they could make the brain grow again. It's out of the question. Absolutely impossible. Zombies can grow brains by relying on negative energy, so they won't want to break into other people's homes and eat other people's brains all day long. Gretel gritted his teeth and drew a big circle around the part where negative energy grows brains and gave instructions next to him. The content of this experiment has nothing to do with this journal and has nothing to do with treatment. It is recommended to list it separately and submit it to a journal focusing on necromancy. Call it back to make changes. After the changes, it can basically pass. Very good, let's read the next article. Spiral detection magic scan, used to detect artifacts in high-level patients. This is good. Gretel was happy. He looked down with interest, and sure enough, the next research was exactly the direction he had been waiting for. The basic principle of the spiral detection magic scan is to use detection magic to stimulate the magic light source, pass through the human body, and use the different blocking rates of magic light in different parts of the human body to see through the human body. This method of exploration has many advantages, such as being fast, efficient, free from mental interference, and capable of precise exploration. However, if the object being detected is also a high-level expert, then he himself will become a magic light source and interfere with the detection results. Yeah. This is the difference between CT and magic CT. The subjects of CT examination are all normal people. At most, you need to pay attention to whether there are metal buttons on the body, whether there are metal dentures, whether there are any strange things on the body. The human body itself will not become a radioactive source. However, the high-level experts themselves are just like big light bulbs. Before this, we generally relied on experience correction when detecting high-level experts. After long-term research and verification through anatomical exploration, surgery, mental exploration, and other methods, the author has summarized a set of effective correction calculation models. Next, there are a lot of experimental records, a lot of tables, a lot of data and calculation processes. Greet read the paper with great interest, and even through the data and calculation process to Tailing and asked him to try it out. From the data point of view, the calculation formula is correct. However, we will face different types and levels of strong men, and the types of illnesses and mental violence will also have different situations. In view of this, I hope the author will continue to work hard and deepen research in this field. Greet happily approved a paragraph on the paper and planned to put this paper in the first article of the next issue of Life to let everyone know his editor-in-chief's tendency to accept papers. Another article is about the use of medical care for warriors to advance. For warriors below level 10, the probability of cerebral hemorrhage during the advancement process is so slim that it can almost not be counted. Starting from the 10th level, as the mental requirements for warriors to advance gradually increase, the probability of cerebral hemorrhage also gradually increases. After becoming a Sky Knight, if the advancement fails, the probability of cerebral hemorrhage increases to more than 10%. It can be seen from the research on the brain by the puzzle control system that brain damage caused by cerebral hemorrhage will affect people's movement ability. Warriors who fail to advance often need a longer period of time to recover from brain damage, and the muscle atrophy during this period affects their further development. Is there such a thing? Gretel thought. He only knew that the probability of cerebral hemorrhage among berserkers was very high during the advancement process and during fierce battles. Back then, when he first set foot on the Blackgate Peninsula, he treated a berserker who suffered from cerebral hemorrhage. However, ordinary human warriors also suffer from cerebral hemorrhage during combat. Take another look. The author is a conjuration healer and war priest. The data comes from several god of war temples near Nevis, and all the warriors who have advanced recently have been scanned. Very good, very good. It seems that the cooperation between the Parliament and the Temple of the God of War is getting closer and closer. Speaking of it, you know it if you don't practice for 1 day, and everyone in the world knows if you don't practice for 3 days. No matter how strong a warrior is, he can't bear the brain hemorrhage after failing to advance. He will be bedridden for a month and then recuperate for half a year. Hey, after processing this paper, can you send it alone to the wilderness and seduce a group of barbarians and berserker warriors? Deepening the cooperation with the barbarians will have all the benefits and no harm. Gretel flipped through all the papers with great interest. He was stunned for a while, and then suddenly let out a long sigh. There are so many papers, but there is still nothing he wants to see, including the project application submitted by Oak Grove Hospital. There is nothing he wants to see. In fact, the main functions of hemostasis, thrombolysis, blood pressure reduction, CT, and MRI are not to provide medical monitoring for those strong people, those extraordinary people, when they advance. The most important thing about these medical methods is to help chest pain centers and stroke centers to deal with cerebral hemorrhage, cerebral infarction, and myocardial infarction. These emergencies can be treated quickly, and the number of emergency deaths will be greatly reduced. Well, it seems that I have to carry out this project myself and roll out the 2 major centers myself. After spreading it out, I can use the strength of these 2 centers to promote the medical center on a large scale. I want to go home. I want to go back to Nevis. When will those dragon eggs hatch? When will Cyrilla end her slumber? Cat defends home address with great success. The Industrial and Commercial Bureau called Mau Mau and told the company to make changes. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1837. Emergency Care, 3 major centers, Chest Pain Center, Stroke Center, and Trauma Emergency Center. In Greet's previous life, he mainly worked in a trauma emergency center. He was an emergency surgeon, not an emergency medicine specialist. However, if there is a real emergency, you have to go to the next door to help. The chest pain center deals with myocardial infarction, angina pectoris, pulmonary embolism, aortic dissection, pneumothorax, etc., and the stroke center deals with cerebral infarction and cerebral hemorrhage, all of which are critical and serious, and can kill people in minutes. As long as he is busy, he can't just sit back and watch while he's dying over there. The establishment of 3 major centers can be regarded as Gretel's original intention to establish a hospital in this world. After all, chronic diagnosis is not urgent. You can wait for the patient's family members to hold the patient, trembling, and drag him to the hospital for treatment. However, if the emergency and first aid construction is not good, people will really die. Especially myocardial infarction, pulmonary embolism, cerebral infarction and cerebral hemorrhage. The current magical treatment is not very effective in treating these chest pains and strokes. Who is susceptible to these diseases? For myocardial infarction, angina pectoris, cerebral infarction and cerebral hemorrhage, one of the high risk factors is age, and the other is arteriosclerosis caused by high blood fat and high cholesterol. In other words, in this world, the people who are most likely to get sick are the nobles and the rich. It is not easy for the poor to live that long. Even if they live that long, most of them will be lean and lean. In their blood vessels, less prone to fat deposition. As for nobles, wealthy businessmen, spellcasters, and warriors, especially warriors who have reduced their training as they grow older, they can live longer, and they can easily gain weight. Therefore, their demand for chest pain centers and stroke centers is also quite high. And there is hope that new-style hospitals can be spread to every corner with their support. Greet wrote down the plan, thinking as he wrote. However, to expand these hospitals, or at least to establish a mature treatment process for patients with chest pain and stroke, he needs to personally preside over it, receive enough patients, and then summarize the method from enough cases. In the final analysis, I just want to go back to Nevis. Doing the math, he has been floating outside for a long time since he went to the New World to save Lin En. He has been floating for more than 10 years. In more than 10 years, children can grow to adulthood, adults can grow old, and pretty girls can become mothers of several children. Only spellcasters with long lifespans like them cannot feel the traces of time passing on their bodies. Gretel put down his pen and stood up, standing in front of the mirror on the side of the study. The full-length glass mirror accurately reflects his image. After so many years, his appearance in the mirror is still somewhere between a young man and a teenager. Well, maybe it's not just because of the caster, nor just because of the refinement of natural power. But because he is a half-elf? The lifespan of half-elves is always longer than that of humans. Moreover, it is said that the higher the level, the purer the bloodline will be, and the closer to the elves, the longer the lifespan will be. Even if there is enough time, things still need to be done. Moreover, the sooner we do it, the better. If we do it one day earlier, we can save 1, 10, or 100 more lives. So when can I go back to Nevis? When can we leave? Greet flipped through the experiment records and was delighted to find that the earliest eggs of the legendary white dragon and the prime white dragon were only 2 months away from hatching. In other words, as long as these dragon eggs hatch successfully and the young dragons awaken, his reproduction of legendary dragon descendants project will be declared a success. Next, just to see how many members of the dragon clan need to reproduce, he performs artificial insemination one by one, sets up the magic to strengthen the dragon eggs one by one, and then the task is over. As for the legendary female dragon, the legendary level female dragon, due to hormones and the defense capabilities of eggs that are far stronger than sperm, maybe it is not that easy to successfully obtain fertilized eggs and successfully lay dragon eggs. However, that was another hugely difficult topic. If we really wanted to study it, it couldn't be solved in a year or two. It would take at least 3 to 5 years to start. He couldn't afford to waste that much time. Speaking of which, until now, no legendary female dragon has provided eggs for him to study. Greed went down to the dragon egg hatching nest, walked around one by one, listened to the movements in the dragon eggs, released his spiritual power, and felt the vitality of the little guys in the eggshells. Well, it seems that the little guys are all growing well and very energetic. In another 2 months, at least 2/3 of them will hatch successfully. Of these 2/3, even half can be awakened. He has achieved an achievement that no ancient dragon has ever done before and no one will come after. Well, next, it all depends on Sarala. When will Sarah wake up? When will she end her deep sleep and successfully advance? She has been sleeping for more than a year. Greed took the elevator to the top of the building and glanced at Sarala from a distance. The huge silver dragon still maintains its sleeping form, with its head buried under the base of its wings, falling into a deep sleep. The ice mist outside it expands and contracts with its breathing. The only difference is that her head was facing the door before, but this time her wings were facing the door. I don't know if it turned 90 degrees, 270 degrees, or unknowingly, it turned more circles. Even the mountain of gold coins used as a bed was dug into a hole by her. A huge pit. All the gold coins, silver coins, and gems were scattered around, with Sarala as the center, shaking out a circle with a diameter of tens of meters. Gretel didn't even need to look carefully to find that some gold coins were missing a small piece, half, or a large piece. Maybe, probably, in a daze, you used gold coins as snacks. Isn't this a lot bigger than before? Greet gestured and gestured again, muttering uncertainly. Theoretically, the process of dragon advancement, that is, the process of growing up, if the dragon can successfully grow to a sufficient size, basically means the advancement is successful. Is she almost full size? If you advance to the next level, the body length should be about 5 feet, and the tail length should also be 5 feet. Is there enough food to eat? The monster in the dragon's nest looks like there is still a third the way. Greet stood on tiptoes, walked a quarter of a circle around Sarara, and walked carefully to her head. Still wanting to take a closer look, a huge suction force suddenly surged up, dragging him towards Sarala. The sleeping silver dragon opened her mouth, and a whirlwind swept up the surrounding monsters, gold, silver, and gems, and threw them into her mouth. Also being rolled up was the unsuspecting Gretel. Ah! Sarara, stop it. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geolan 2020. Chapter 1838. Gretel was horrified. Gretel panicked. Greet's limbs were slicing wildly. Gretel used a heavy weight, but it was of no use. The entire ground of the dragon's nest has long been soaked and covered with ice mist. It has been frozen repeatedly and is extremely slippery. Even if the friction was increased 100 times, he still couldn't stabilize his body. Greet used a freezing technique to freeze himself with the ground, but it was of no use. The suction force was too strong. As soon as the solace of his shoes froze, he was pushed by a frozen rhinoceros that flew over. The ice cracked under his feet and the ice layer broke. Greet used the force field barrier, and by the way, he pulled all the corpses of the surrounding monsters over, one by one, and threw them towards Sarala. This was slightly useful. At least, these monster corpses effectively slowed down Sarala's swallowing speed. When an ice tiger flew over, she always had to take 5 or 6 bites. When a woolly rhinoceros flew over, she always had to chew 7 or 8 more bites. But, there seems to be not enough warcraft. The small mountain of magical beasts stored in the dragon's lair was eaten by her in a few bites, and she quickly ate them all. Not even broken bones and dregs. Not even a splash of blood. On the one hand, the blood of those monsters was frozen hard, and on the other hand, when Cyrilla was eating, she was sucking and swallowing, a small whirlwind enveloped her, and the pieces of meat splashed out from between her teeth. Broken bones, all rolled back. Click. Click. With a click, one of the woolly rhinoceros thighs, which Gretel could only hold with his hands together, was broken, and the whole thigh was swallowed by the silver dragon in one go. With a click, the ice tiger's torso was broken at the waist. The ice tiger, which was 2 times larger than the Siberian tiger, had its entire chest cavity swallowed by the silver dragon. With a click, the blue-scaled golden conger eel's trunk, thicker than a tree trunk, was cut off in the middle. It was like chewing noodles, being chewed into the mouth by the silver dragon. Click, click, click. It seemed like a few hours had passed, and it seemed like only a few minutes had passed. The corpses of the monsters stored in the dragon's lair were all consumed by Cyrilla. Together with the monster corpses that Gretel carried and threw out urgently, they were all eaten clean. And Cyrilla didn't seem to be full yet, and she didn't seem to be awake yet. She opened her hazy eyes, with no focus in her silver blue pupils. She was still subconsciously opening her mouth, inflating her chest, and sucking in. Suck. This time, Gretel was fully prepared and used magic to stick himself to the corner and set up a strong enough protective shield. Very good, the huge suction force came again, and he didn't move at all, didn't move at all. Hey 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 hey. The treasure in the dragon's nest has been moved. All the gold coins, silver coins, gems, magic equipment, magic scrolls, were swept up by a whirlwind and thrown into the open mouth of the silver dragon like a whale sucking water. Seeing click, 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 1,000 silver coins were gone, click, 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 another 1,000 gold coins were gone. Ruined. These treasures are Cyrilla's most precious treasures. If she wakes up and finds that all her treasures are gone and eaten, she will cry to death. She will definitely cry to death. What to do? What to do? Gretel was thinking quickly. The silver dragon's ingestion of a large amount of food while sleeping is nothing more than a lack of external energy supply and the need to use food to fill the energy gap in the body. Then, first of all, it is necessary to give her enough energy. Tailing. He quickly connected to the center of the mage tower. Operate the magic circle. Increase the energy density of the dragon's nest. With Cyrilla's location as the center, energy will be supplied centrally, as much as it can be supplied. Ask the invisible servants to bring food. As many high-level monsters and mid-level monsters as are suitable for Cyrilla. Collect these treasures and hide them, don't let Cyrilla find out. He gave a command and the tower spirit made an action. In a moment, the ice mist around Cyrilla became thicker. The silver dragon took a comfortable breath of the mist full of magical power, and the scales on its body opened and closed, making it look much brighter. After a while, 12 invisible servants rushed into the dragon's nest carrying piles of monsters. Greet's visual inspection revealed that he had probably emptied the entire back kitchen and all the monster meat from the takeout storage room. Then, when the invisible servant retreated, he quickly gathered all the treasures on the ground, pushed them to the corner, and piled them into a pile. Greet opened a little of the protective shield, and those invisible servants tried their best to stuff the remaining treasures into the protective shield. Finish. Done. The plan to save the dragon's nest treasure was a great success. This wave of emergency measures probably saved 90% of Cyrilla's treasures, although it's not 100%, it's still pretty good. Cyrilla should be very happy when she wakes up and sees, Rui, La. No. Gretel screamed in horror. Cyrilla devoured all the monster meat, and then took a deep, deep breath. This breath formed a huge tornado, rolling the protective shield directly through the gap in the protective shield and the corner of the wall. Even he was rolled over. Cyrilla, no. It's me. Don't bite me. I have so much defensive magic. So many. If you bite it, it will knock out your teeth and hurt you. The sharp teeth were getting closer and closer, and Gretel's heart was beating faster and faster. The ice mist rotated and condensed into thousands of ice blades, scraping out little sparks on the defensive cover he had propped up. Although it was not on the verge of collapse, it seriously reminded him that Cyrilla was not yet awake at all. What to do, how to avoid being bitten by Cyrilla? Giant transformation? Man of Steel? Forget it, let's break the jar. Gretel let out a long roar and stretched his body. The next moment, the silver light surged, and the body between a boy and a young man stretched and deformed. Soon, another silver dragon appeared in the dragon's nest, standing opposite the misty female silver dragon. Cyrilla? I suck. I suck. I can't suck it. The silver dragon, which was huge enough and was already the size of a mature dragon, sniffed its nose in confusion and rushed forward. One step, 2 steps, the earth shakes and the mountains shake. She ran right into Gretel. Gretel, I can withstand it. I have to work hard to withstand it. Oops, this momentum is too strong, and the ground seems to be too slippery. Where are the fighting skills that my brother-in-law trained me before? Combat skills displayed in the body of a silver dragon? I have basically forgotten everything. Since the invasion of foreign enemies, all high-level dragons have gone to Sky Dragon City. No one has supervised my training for several years. I haven't practiced for 3 years. I really know it. Cyrilla, don't press on me. Get up. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1839. Greed was crestfallen. Greed was weak. Gretel's steps were frivolous. Gretel stepped out of the dragon's lair with a deep kick and a shallow kick. He wanted to fall down and sleep every minute. Beside him, Cyrilla was smiling and in high spirits. Gretel, I successfully advanced. Aren't I great, Gretel? Yeah, that's great. Greet, I have surpassed you again. Yeah, congratulations. Gretel, you have to work harder. You can't hold on for this little time just because you turned into a silver dragon. It will take at least 2 hours, no, an hour and a half, no, it must be an hour no matter what. Gretel. I was able to persist for an hour before, because I first had enough energy in the mage tower, then ate and practiced, ate while practicing, and occasionally took the time to connect to the mage tower. When I came up today, first I only had half of my magic power reserve, and then I had nothing to eat and no instant power replenishment. Moreover, I am really not good at fighting in dragon form, not at all. He is even less good at direct physical combat without using magic. I have to be careful not to hurt you. Apart from being pressed and pushed by you, what can I do? Mage Nordmark. Mage Nordmark. Mage Nordmark, today's lunch, Miss Sarah. You have successfully advanced. Congratulations. Congratulations, Miss Sarah. It's over. Miss Sarah is going to have a big meal when she comes out of seclusion. Today's dinner, tomorrow's breakfast, lunch, and dinner, I guess there won't be any good food, and there's no need to count on Warcraft meat or anything like that. Fortunately, everyone is a spellcaster, and everyone can do the most basic thing of making food. If it doesn't work, everyone should make some bread with your hands urgently, soothe your stomach, and wait for the barbarians who serve the hospital to come back from hunting monsters, and then enjoy the magical food. Cyrilla doesn't care about the mood of these spellcasters. She happily took Gretel's hand and walked around the mage tower to confirm that this mage tower was still her territory. As for the other strange creatures that appeared in the territory, such as the half-legendary Grand Duke of the Blood Race, Cyrilla felt her authority in the mage tower, felt the other party's power, wrinkled her little nose, and snorted softly. In the mage tower, I'm not afraid of you. Outside the mage tower, anyway, this is Dragon Island, the territory of Mom and Dad. I, Silver Dragon Cyrilla, am not afraid of anyone. After learning that Cyrilla had come out of seclusion, all the important people in the mage tower came over to congratulate Miss Silver Dragon. Idion took Ash Moonsong and galloped back from 100 miles away. Bernard rode Apa back wildly, just to give Miss Silver Dragon a smile, and almost made Apa vomit. Although Princess Norrel and Senior Sister Philby were both in Sky Dragon City and did not attend in person, they also expressed their congratulations to Cyrilla through the communication between Sky Dragon City and the ground. Even Mr. Langer, who had already entered the legend, specially pulled himself out of the studio and gave him a piece of pre-made magic equipment as a congratulatory gift. After all these people walked through it, Greet and Cyrilla were able to return to their exclusive floor. As soon as they entered the living room, Cyrilla grabbed Gretel and said, "Greet, what's delicious? I'm hungry." "Yes, yes." At this time, Greet had time to prepare all the hot food that he had cooked for Cyrilla in advance, and had hidden it in the space equipment until now, and took them out one by one to pay tribute. A blue ice-horned sheep, boiled half white and half braised. "Look, this is hand-caught mutton. A whole half of the lamb. I stewed it. This is salt and pepper, and these are chive flowers. Just take a piece of mutton and dip it in it and it will taste delicious. This is braised lamb, Bernard stewed it with various spices and sauces. It is stewed until it is crispy and you can bite it without any effort. This is kabayaki golden eel, deep fried first, then cooked in a sauce with rock sugar and honey, and then slowly boiled to reduce the juice. This is grilled eel. Marinate it with sauce and grill it directly. This is..." Cyrilla was so happy that she smiled. Although Greet did not capture these monsters, nor did he burn them, high-level monsters have the ability to control fire. Gretel has no such ability, but it was all his idea. He was the one who came up with various recipes, picked out the monsters, and instructed others to cook. When they were ready, he immediately stored them with space equipment so that she could have a hot bite as soon as she successfully advanced. What's important is that it's hot. Fragrant. His thoughts? "Gretel, you are so good to me. You are also very kind to me." Cyrilla Greet sat opposite the silver dragon girl. He just took a few chopsticks and looked at Cyrilla with a smile. "I want to go to the new world, so you will accompany me to the new world. If I want to go to the Elf Island, you will accompany me to the Elf Island. When you return to Dragon Island, you will not stay with your parents for a while, but you will accompany me to do research wholeheartedly. This and that." Cyrilla came back to her senses from a thick piece of kabayaki roasted golden eel that was as long as an arm and as wide as a palm. She raised her hand and wiped it hard, smearing the sauce from her mouth to half of her cheeks. She pursed her lips, threw herself a cleansing spell, and looked at Gretel seriously. "This is what it should be. I'm an adult now. We two are together. Besides, I advance faster by studying with you. Keep your chest up. Stand tall and proud." The silver dragons and golden dragons who are the same age as her are, in short, the friends they played with when they were children. Most of them are still in their late youth, and only a small part have reached adulthood. And she, the powerful Cyrilla, the little princess Yuehui of the Liu Guang Shining family, has advanced to the age of a mature dragon. Almost 100 years ahead of its peers. He, 100 years, 100 years. And you don't advance through hard training, or dangerous battles. You just follow Gretel around and help him when doing research, and you will naturally advance. Greet looked at the silver dragon girl's proud expression and smiled slightly. He waited patiently for a long time, until Cyrilla had finished cleaning up all the dishes and leaned back on the chair with satisfaction, and then softly said, "Cyrilla, I want to go back to Nevis. Once the research on Dragon Island is completed and the legendary dragon breeding plan is confirmed, I plan to go back to Nevis and try to promote the hospital as much as possible. When the time comes, will you go with me?" Cyrilla's eyes widened in surprise. She stared at Greet, looking up, down, left, and right until she saw Greet's heart was pounding and there seemed to be 1,000 little bugs crawling on his spine, and then she suddenly said, "So, when will you have a wedding with me?" "Gretel?" "No, Cyrilla, how did your thoughts jump from returning to Nevis together to holding a wedding? It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right?" Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1840. Of course I want to go with you. After all these years, when did I not go with you? So what do you mean by asking me specifically? Do you want to hold a wedding now? Gretel opened his mouth, then closed it, opened his mouth again, and closed it again. He just thought that it was rare for Cyrilla to return to Dragon Island, and he wondered if she wanted to spend more time with her parents, brothers, and sisters. She is now a mature dragon. I wonder if she wants to go to Sky Dragon City and fight there. Most of the giant dragons with strong enough fighting power are there. Obviously, fighting in Sky Dragon City is very beneficial to the advancement of dragons. I can, but. Gretel was surprised to see that this girl, who was always fearless and said whatever she thought of, lowered her head, clasped her fingers, and her face turned red. Hesitant, just unable to speak. But Gretel already knew that the way he spoke before was wrong. He should directly ask Cyrilla what his plans will be next, whether he will stay on Dragon Island to fight and improve himself, or go to Nevis with him to help promote the hospital. According to his previous question, Cyrilla probably didn't have any second thoughts besides thinking that he was proposing. So Greet leaned forward, smiled slightly, and took Cyrilla's hand. Regardless of her surprise, blush, and subconscious reply, he held it firmly and said softly, "Cyrilla, you can have a wedding whenever you want. I'll listen to you, I just want to ask about your future plans. After all, your parents are here. Maybe you want to have a wedding in Longshan. Can you stay on the island a little longer?" What's there to save? Cyrilla's face became redder and darker. The silver dragon, whose instinct was to control ice and snow, could hardly suppress the heat on his face, and his cheeks were almost burning. "Wherever you go, I'll go. You can have the wedding whenever and wherever you want. I mean, well, that, maybe you want your mother to attend the wedding. She should indeed be invited to participate. Although she is the mother of the original body, her love and concern for the original body are real." Gretel sighed softly and squeezed Cyrilla's palm. "Yes, she must be invited. However, if she is invited, the wedding will take a long time. She will have to wait for her to come from the Elf Island. Cyrilla won't be impatient, right? Will she wait? It took too long and you feel aggrieved?" "That's definitely not the case," Cyrilla shook her head vigorously. "My parents, your mother, must all be present. By the way, Greet, do you want to invite some other relatives? Do you want to invite your mother's relatives? And your father's relatives? Are there any relatives on Dad's side?" "Yes, there are, but I have never seen them, and I don't know how to get along with them." The conversation gradually took a strange turn. Seeing Cyrilla's obviously relieved look, Gretel didn't criticize her and let her think of ways to ramble on. After chatting for a long time, Cyrilla finally prepared herself mentally and whispered, "It's okay to get married, you can have a wedding anytime, but can you, Can you not have a baby so soon? I also want to advance to legend. I heard that after giving birth to a child, it will be more difficult to advance to legend. It will take a long time. Gretel was stunned for a moment, and a feeling of pity and guilt suddenly rose up, covering him completely. Giving birth to a child does cause a greater loss to the mother, much more than the loss to the father. Even if it is a dragon clan, in order for the child to be successfully born, the father will condense a huge amount of energy and inject it into the fertilized egg. The mother is still the main force responsible for the pregnancy. A child robs far more power from its mother than from its father, and the number of female dragons who advance to legends is significantly lower than that of male dragons, and the age at which they advance to legends is generally later than that of male dragons. No problem, I'll listen to you. When you tell me to give birth, I'll give birth to you. We won't give birth until the legend is reached, Greet replied decisively. How could he delay Cyrilla's future by wanting a child for himself? In particular, he has no shortage of time. 30 or 40 years old is a very young age for a half-elf. For a half-elf whose body has always been nourished by the power of nature, it is an extremely young age. Unlike in previous lives, after a certain age for men, sperm motility begins to decline, and for women after a certain age, as advanced maternal age, complications such as pregnancy-induced hypertension and gestational diabetes will increase, requiring extra careful medical care. They don't lack time. That's great, Cyrilla's face was filled with joy, then turned to worry. But, doesn't it mean that it will be difficult to have children when you reach legend? What if you can't have children by then? After her parents arrived in legend, they had no children for hundreds of years. The Lord of Thunder and the elf princess have not had any children since their marriage. Gretel is a half-elf, and she is a dragon. Neither race has a high fertility rate. What if after becoming a legend, they can no longer have children? If you can't give birth, continue your research, Gretel answered her very matter-of-factly. As he spoke, he stood up, walked around the table, and sat next to her. Cyrilla, what is the direction of my research? In the past few years in Long Island, haven't I been studying legendary reproduction? If I can't give birth, it must be my problem. My research is not deep enough or thorough enough to solve the problem. The problem that got you pregnant. Cyrilla turned her sorrow into a smile and threw herself into Gretel's arms. Gretel put his arms around her and patted her shoulder gently, thinking in his mind. It seems that the issue of reproduction of legendary dragons cannot be declared closed for the time being. It must be ensured that those legendary female dragons can also give birth. Fortunately, there is no rush. You can study it in Nevis while waiting for the dragon clan to come to your door. By the way, when do the teacher and mistress want to have a baby? Do you need help? He couldn't speak for fear of being beaten by the teacher. Maybe he could ask Cyrilla to talk to his teacher's wife. Also, among the female legends in the parliament, I don't know which ones have the need to have children. Even if you don't want to get married, it's not impossible to have a single child. Anyway, they are all legends, and they are not afraid of not being able to raise children. In short, let the news out quietly, let people in need come to your door, and deceive a few experimental subjects first. By the time he and Sarah need to have a baby, the reproductive center should have been built and the reproductive assistance magic is strong enough. If you can't get pregnant naturally, if you want to have a baby, is it just a matter of a few magics? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geolan 2020. Chapter 1841. I don't need you here anymore. After reaching an agreement on the future direction, Cyrilla immediately started chasing people away. Unloading mills and killing donkeys, crossing rivers and demolishing bridges, using people to move forward, not using people to move backward, it can be said that it is fully displayed. I'm full, I'm going to start reading. There are so many books to read. I have to read through all the research you have done on the Mage Tower during this period to figure it out. Sarah directly pushed Gretel out, and at the same time, without any courtesy, she occupied the entire central system of the Mage Tower, preparing for a big fight. She put her hand on Greet's back and pushed him out while saying carefully, "You also need to talk to them slowly, reveal a little bit of information slowly, and don't be anxious. Who wants to go back, and who wants to stay? I estimate that there must be many people who want you to stay. I'm afraid the Dragon Clan will come to block the door. That's natural. As far as the Dragon Clan is concerned, what is in their best interests must be for Gretel to stay on Dragon Island for a period of time and be available whenever called. According to the Dragon Clan's concept of time, this a period of time must start from a few decades to 100 years. As for the humans who are now stationed in the Mage Tower, except for those who are already legendary and can build the Mage Tower on Dragon Island by themselves, who else doesn't want Gretel to stay on Dragon Island for a long time? Who doesn't hope to enjoy the shade under a big tree? Even after Gretel leaves, there is someone who can take up his responsibility and take the lead in negotiating with the Dragon Clan. Can he be trusted like Gretel? Can you get the same favorable conditions as Gretel? At that time, the magicians can still be as at ease as they are now, concentrating on their research here, without even having to think about the research topics themselves. Nordmark Mage always has a lot of various needs, and these needs will lead to endless topics. As magicians, there are only those who are too busy, and they are never at a loss and don't know what to do. You know, a spellcaster's ability to find topics is even more important than his research ability and combat ability. It also determines how far he can go in the end. Gretel was pushed by Cyrilla, and as expected, he walked out obediently, looking for leaders of various schools to talk to him one after another. He himself has nothing to give up. He throws away the research facilities in one place and continues on the next trip. He has done this many times before. From the Institute of Tropical Virology in the Eagle Country to the research on the Fertile Forest and Elf Island, every time, the research results were obtained and then ignored. However, the Institute of Tropical Virology in the Eagle Country is presided over by the magician from Black Crow Swamp. The follow-up topics will be enough for them to study for decades or hundreds of years, and there is enough demand in that area to serve as research motivation and feedback research. The Fertile Forest and the Elf Island are all elves in the final analysis. After he finished his research, he walked away. The elves continued to do whatever they were doing, without any hindrance at all. Here on Dragon Island, there are too many researchers from the Magic Council, and 3 light mage towers have been built. Once he leaves, what to do with these 200 or so people must be carefully arranged. You don't have to worry about me. Of course, the first person Gretel looked for was his senior sister. Phil by legend heard Gretel's plan to return and answered decisively on the spot. I will have to fight on the battlefield in Sky Dragon City for at least several decades. Looking at them, they probably won't be able to finish it in a few years or more. While fighting and researching, I happened to have a lot of inspirations and wanted to verify them one by one on the battlefield. I also want to get a group of magicians to help me with research. This means that even if Greet's Mage Tower withdraws a group of people, Senior Sister Philby can still attract disciples, and even magicians of the plasticity department to fill the hole. Although this inevitably means that half of what she gains on the battlefield in Sky Dragon City will be used to support these thugs, but isn't that the same in the Parliament? High-level mages receive projects from the council, get research funds, and then distribute the research topics to disciples, students, and magicians working in the laboratory, and support them to work for themselves. There is nothing more than one more transfer. The resources obtained by Longdeo may not be used directly. They may have to be sent to the Parliament via airship and then exchanged with the Parliament. However, This is not difficult, a careful disciple is enough. Sister, how many people do you want? Gretel rubbed forward. Filby turned her head and thought for a moment. In addition to these, how about another 10 or 20 people? We can't have too many people, there are still people working in Nevis. Indeed, in Nevis, since the generator was developed, various devices that use electricity have developed rapidly. As small as street lights, lights in homes, lights in schools and mage towers. There are all kinds of pumps, mixers, pulverizers, and all kinds of machinery that can only be driven by magic. Until now, the particularly sophisticated ones still require magic, but the low-end and simple ones can already use electricity. Manufacturing generators, maintaining power generation and transmission systems, and repairing various electrical machinery provide a large number of jobs for magicians of the lightning branch. Compared with 10 years ago, the number of magicians who graduated from the Magic Academy this year has more than quadrupled. This city, this country, is greedily devouring its new casters. In other words, senior sister can handle 50 jobs here. Gretel felt confident before going to talk to Legend of Langer. The attitude of this alchemy legend is also very determined. I haven't finished building the legendary equipment yet. I will definitely not leave for at least 20 years. How many people do I need? All the alchemists here will stay, and the others, at least 20 more. The protection system can deploy various defenses and is particularly useful to alchemists. Conjuration magicians are good at spell model calculations. Langer legend feels that if his semiconductor is to be used as the core of the golem, he needs a lot of help from the conjuration system. Although the prophecy system cannot be used for other purposes, it is particularly useful to help you sense the success rate of this method and whether it will explode. You can't just go to the time dragon for anything, right? All these things are added and subtracted, and no matter what, there are still 20 people left. Together, the two legends solved 50 jobs. As for what to do with the rest of the people. What? Your Excellency, Lord of the Plague, you don't want us anymore. The necromancers struck with thunder. Necromancers are like mourning their heirs. Their research direction is incompatible with the legend of Filby, nor with the legend of Langer, nor with any direction. As soon as the Plague Lord leaves, they will have no choice but to get out of here. They will probably have to keep the dragon blood, dragon meat, and dragon bones they obtained from the dragon clan. And they don't even have their own legend yet. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1842. Even though Gretel was always thick-faced and hard-hearted, he felt a little embarrassed. In the Eagle Country, he abandoned the Black Crow Swamp once, and the entire Virus Research Institute was abandoned to them. When I arrived at Dragon Island, I had traveled thousands of miles to lure a bunch of high-level people. After a few years, I didn't even get promoted to a legend, so I had to send them back. By the way, his own disciples haven't trained a great mage yet. The dark gold skeleton given by His Excellency the Immortal has not been sent out yet, which is a bit embarrassing. Has the luck of the necromancy system over the years been concentrated on Archmage Heinz? By the way, this Archmage was first deceived to the Eagle Kingdom, and then to the Sun Kingdom, where he advanced to become a legend. With this embarrassment, Greed patiently chatted with the person in charge of the necromancy department for a whole morning, and together they sorted out the current research topics of the necromancy department. Finally, give some serious advice. I want to leave Dragon Island. I probably can't take away the dragon's flesh and blood, but I can make the decision and exchange it for a batch of materials at equal value from the Mage Tower warehouse. If you want to stay on Dragon Island, your recent research can be adjusted in two directions. The necromancer's eyes sparkled. If she were better looking, her eyes might be as eager as a golden retriever. But she was too thin and ugly. Gretel always felt like she was being stared at by an old hyena that was about to starve to death. He moved in his seat, shook the chill off his back, and said slowly. The first is the use of cloning on dragons. Even dragons probably won't mind having an extra life, this topic will probably impress them. The necromancer's face felt bitter, but he withstood it firmly. Cloning is a very mature spell, but when it is applied to dragons, apart from other things, just the expansion of the dragon body in the alchemy warehouse is a huge problem. Is this project really likely to succeed? And he has to go to the dragon clan to negotiate. How high is his credibility in front of the dragon clan, so that people can continue to invest without seeing the results? Even if a legendary host comes. He looked at Greed helplessly, and Greed had no other solution. He could only suggest that he divide a big topic into several small stages, and then toss in a dozen or 20 nodes in each small stage. At these nodes, if any knowledge is more useful to the dragon clan, it should be able to attract some investment. The second topic is the separate application of cloning. You see, the current cloning is either not done at all, or it is a whole body. If you can clone an arm, a leg, or a separate organ, there will be lots of applications. The necromancers couldn't imagine what applications it could be used for, but Gretel was very interested in trying organ transplantation. Naturally, the seventh ring's regeneration technique can also restore organs and limbs to cope with most situations, but there are always things that can't be solved. For example, encounter a large-scale genetic collapse. Another example is encountering a wide range of toxins that infect the internal organs. For another example, this person's heart is broken, cutting out the heart directly and then using regeneration technique to cultivate a new heart will not be as fast as a heart transplant surgery and will cause less damage to the body. Another example is that the whole person was hit by an energy-absorbing spell or something similar, and all the energy was exhausted. The energy and materials needed for regeneration are drawn from the main body. At this time, wouldn't it be good to replace them with new organs? I can invest part of this topic, and you can find a way to get the dragon clan to contribute part of it. When fighting in the outer world, it is inevitable to get injured. If there are any arms and legs that can be replaced quickly, it will be better than eating and sleeping, and it will take several years to recover. It's a dream to have a big boss support you. The necromancers stopped what they were doing and gathered for a meeting. They must sort out the future topics within 3 days. Gretel ignored them and went to find the vampire's Grand Duke Rimmer. Your Majesty the Grand Duke, I'm still not sure about your treatment plan. When I leave Dragon Island, should you go back to Nevis with me and wait for me to do further research, or should you go back to the Black Forest first and wait for me to work out the plan? Return. How could the Grand Duke of Rimmer be willing to leave? He followed Gretel, and within a few months, he made a small breakthrough and sorted out his own strength. He felt that he had saved at least several decades of basking in the moon. Later, he followed Greet and helped to study the cranial decompression technique. Although it was only a small spell, he could faintly feel the increase in power. What's more important is that these powers are pure, gentle, and have no consequences. Unlike the powers that come from sucking blood, there is always a feeling of conflict and one day losing control. I'll go to Nevis with you. Anyway, with all these things on me, I won't be able to rebel for a while, he replied without thinking. Don't worry, I am willing to sign a magic contract and abide by the regulations of the Parliament. If I don't hunt freely, I don't suck human blood, and if I have any conflicts with humans, I will handle them in accordance with the decrees of the Parliament. Greet narrowed his eyes slightly. Great, he thought. Recently, he needed a lot of research from this vampire. For example, how to lower blood pressure, how to lower blood lipids, how to lower cholesterol, and ultimately, how to restore softness and elasticity to blood vessels with atherosclerotic plagues and calcified blood vessels. This cannot be done by relying on modern medicine. According to modern medicine, The aging of blood vessels is basically irreversible. Relying on magic, the current magic is not very good. At least, it seems that it is not possible to kill all the blood vessels and then use regeneration to generate new blood vessels. The vampires are very good at controlling blood, and maybe they are also good at controlling blood vessels. Maybe they can find a way. It will be much easier to find a way and then reverse it into a spell model. Greed smiled and stretched out his hand, shaking it vigorously with the Grand Duke. By the way, the healing technique that can be useful on vampires and help them recover may be related to negative energy or dark energy. Take him back and let Nevis build a particle accelerator or something, and bump and bump and bump. Maybe with some luck, the plasticity department can become a legend again. Then it's settled. He reached an agreement with the Grand Duke of the Blood Race with a smile. Step out of the Mage Tower and look up at the sky. Should I go talk to the Dragon Clan now? Or should we wait for those legendary white dragon eggs to hatch and then talk to them? The latter seems to be safer, but will the Dragon Clan be unhappy? You are leaving. A pair of huge eyes suddenly came to him. He was breathing heavily and almost pushed Gretel over. Gretel subconsciously took a step back, his face changing color. Has the Time Dragon seen it? So, does he want to go find the Dragon Clan now? It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1843. Lying in front of the Time Dragon has no meaning or any use. Greed nodded bravely, and his mind was racing, trying to find an explanation that would be accepted by the Dragon Clan and would not backlash too much. There was no foreshadowing, no warning, just I plan to return to Nevis within a few months. Would the Dragon Clan think that he was planning to take the money and abscond? If you lose your favorability points, you will lose a lot. Then, he saw the Time Dragon going up and down, looking him over, even twitching his nose and trying to take a breath, turned around and walked away. Gone, gone. As he walked, he was still muttering in a low voice. It's time to leave long ago. Time is so slow during this period. Gretel. Time goes so slowly. Time goes so slowly. You mean, the waves stirred up by the river of time move so slowly, right? You dislike me staying here. There are no big things today, no big things tomorrow, and no big things the day after. I can't make changes that affect the world, and I can't provide you with fun, right? Do you want me to go back to Nevis as soon as possible? Hey, does this mean that as long as you go to Nevis, there will be a lot of things happening, a lot of big things happening, and you, the old man, can enjoy the excitement? Gretel twitched the corners of his mouth and chased after him. Shoot yourself 2 acceleration spells in succession, and with a pace as fast as a galloping horse, you chase the Time Dragon and start bargaining. Hey, can you help me with something? Just for those legendary white dragon eggs, help me see how many of them can be hatched normally and how many can be awakened. Don't help? If you don't help, I won't leave. Nonsense, I can't leave. I have to wait until all the results of these dragon eggs come out before I can talk to the Dragon Clan about leaving. If I go back and forth, it will be delayed for at least 3 months, and it will be delayed for half a year. It's also normal. Come on, man, you want to see interesting things. You want to see it, not me. Isn't it hard to pay a little bit for what you want to see? Just one look, just one look. Just look at each dragon egg. There are less than 10 dragon eggs in total. Is it difficult for you to see what will happen in 2 months? It doesn't have to consume your strength at all, okay? Only see until hatching and awakening. Don't see anything else. Don't even look at it for a second. I promise. I swear on the secret. Time Dragon Sains didn't know whether he finally relented or was annoyed by him. In short, he still went to the hatchery. With quick steps and body like the wind, he passed by the dragon egg and glanced at it vaguely. This, this, this. He ordered 3 dragon eggs in one breath. Gretel was shocked. Are these 3 the only ones awake? No, only these 3 are not awakened, don't bother me. So annoying, really annoying. He was going to sleep on a nearby mountain and think about whether he should follow him to such a far place. Dragon Island is also quite interesting, especially when there is a war up there, and there are turbulent fluctuations in the power of time anytime and anywhere, but the place where the little mage is seems to be more interesting. The time dragon spread its wings and soared into the sky, shaking off a blur of colorful light. Gretel was left standing there and waved vigorously. Yeah. Only 3 have not awakened, which means that the probability of awakening is more than 50%. This probability is already very good, and it is completely worthy of the Dragon Clan. With such a success rate, you can go to the Dragon Clan and submit a final report. Are you leaving now? Gretel's request was immediately delivered to the Dragon Clan. As a sign of the greatest importance to him, his father-in-law André, mother-in-law Cynthia, and the third-level silver dragon Elder Batista came to meet him. As for Gretel, he invited senior sister Philby to lead the battle without hesitation. The 4 legends from both sides sat opposite each other at the long oval table. Elder Batista was not in a hurry to exchange greetings and immediately asked, "What will you do with your research? When will you complete it? When will you be able to help the Dragon Clan widely carry out assisted reproduction?" This. Greet wanted to say, "Actually, I've already finished it. If I want to do it, I can do it immediately." However, before she could speak, the mother-in-law interrupted anxiously. "What about Cyrilla? When will you get married?" But oh no, it's a mystery. Fortunately, we had an agreement with Cyrilla before." Gretel secretly called out Luck, first calmed down his mother-in-law, and then rolled out a bunch of records and forms to deal with the Dragon Clan. In short, the verification work has been completed. The final result is the confirmation made by His Excellency Time Dragon Sains. I will wait until these dragon eggs hatch before leaving. During this period, I will provide the dragons with needs take action personally. The words of Time Dragon can be believed. However, 3 months is too short. Elder Batista frowned tightly. In 3 months, it would be difficult to mobilize manpower to remove a group of mature, adult female dragons from the battlefield to prepare for pregnancy, and let other dragons who have no childbearing plans take over. Not to mention, based on the Dragon Clan's timetable, it is difficult to say whether the legendary male dragon in need can reach an agreement with the female dragon and negotiate remuneration and compensation in 3 months. Can't it be slower? For example, stay for another 3 months, half a year, or 1 year before leaving?" he asked tentatively. Gretel shook his head. "If I go back 3 months earlier, I can build 1 more hospital and save many, many more people. 3 months is already a long time. If I stay for another half a year or a year, I won't be able to do much here. Over there in Nevis, just there are many people who cannot be saved. But if you leave, what will happen to those legendary dragons who need to have children?" Elder Nox has learned all the relevant spells. Gretel calmly flipped through the documents and pulled out a table. "Anavi can do it too. As for the medical care after emerging from the shell and during the awakening process, I have formulated the relevant procedures and numerical standards for spellcasting intervention. There are at least 10 spellcasters in my mage tower who can do it. But they haven't done it. In these 3 months, I can personally watch them do it and correct any problems myself. The fertilized eggs are combined and the results are produced quickly. 3 months is enough for them to practice." Elder Batista asked several more questions, and Greet talked eloquently, answering all questions with confidence. Seeing that he was fully prepared and determined to leave, Elder Batista was a little disappointed, but after all, they could not kidnap him, so they had to take a step back. "Or, after you go back, if we have a need here, Can you come and do it in person? It's very troublesome, it takes at least more than a month to go back and forth to Dragon Island from Nevis. Can any dragon clan in need come to Nevis? Do you want them to come in person? If they come in batches, can Nevis accept more than 5 pairs of dragons to arrive together? Bargain, haggle. Finally, the two sides finally reached an agreement. During these 3 months, Gretel will personally take care of dragons in need. Of course, other spellcasters can also take care of them. Gretel will monitor and guide them, treatment costs are discounted. 3 months later, other spellcasters will be responsible for performing reproductive assistance for the dragons. Of course, everyone can also save up. If they can meet the 10 needs every year, Gretel can fly back specially. Reimbursement of transportation expenses, reimbursement of lost work time, double the cost of treatment. So, how much does it cost each time you do it? Gretel simply stepped aside and pointed at senior sister Philby. Senior sister, come on. You will be my agent from now on. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geolan 2020. Chapter 1844. As soon as the senior sister takes action, she will know if there is any. Greed was really embarrassed to bargain with the dragon clan anymore, and there was also his father-in-law and mother-in-law sitting opposite, making it even more impossible to engage in direct combat. Is he going to tell his father-in-law and mother-in-law, if you want me to provide assisted reproductive services, how much do you need to pay me? Not to mention whether the father-in-law will blow his head off. This statement sounds a bit teasing. So Greet didn't care at all. He cupped his hands and handed it to his senior sister. At worst, he would give her 10% of the tap according to the current rules. With the senior sister here, if the teacher needs anything, just ask the senior sister to directly tell the senior sister, and no one will be embarrassed. When Philby negotiates the price, she is much trickier than Gretel. This senior sister looked through Greet's collection and excluded Dragon Covenant first. Little Greet has a stack of these. What's the use of getting a bunch of Dragon Covenants with legendary dragons that can't be realized within 100 years? Do you want to keep it forever, and then think about using it in another 100, 200, or 300 years? Little Gretel himself will become a legend by then. For a legendary healer, Philby couldn't even imagine how wide his legendary connections could be. Anyway, it would definitely be wider than hers. Just say that you want to help with the punch, and you can call number 1 or 20 by swiping your face. Is it necessary to hold a bunch of Dragon Covenants in your hand? It is impossible for them to go to the battlefield and fight to the death against the legend of the Glory Holy Sea. The most they can do is stand there. Instead of doing this, it's better to discount it. We need Long Island's unique minerals. Unique high-level Warcraft products. Unique high-level magic plants. There are also ores from outside the world, special materials from outside the world. Of course, you can pay for dragon blood, dragon meat, dragon bones, and dragon scales if you are willing to pay. Anyway, you will always be injured during the battle. After the injury, the fallen pieces can be brought back if they do not grow back on your body. It's worth the money. Philby talked eloquently and was high-spirited. In this matter, the Dragon Clan is begging Little Greet, not Little Greet begging the Dragon Clan. They have enough initiative. Besides, she and the teacher were both fighting in the outer world, and just for their sake, the Dragon Clan didn't dare to let Little Greet suffer. At most, because the previous research was invested by the Dragon Clan, as agreed in advance, there will be an appropriate discount. She also only needs to negotiate a total price. There was no need for her to negotiate these materials, resources, and related pricing in person. There were already related pricing in Gretel's Mage Tower, and they were all settled by the Dragon clan over and over again. Greet just sat quietly in the Mage Tower, waiting for news from his senior sister, waiting for her to help him negotiate the price, how many dragons would come to use assisted reproductive services, and even help them line up. As for himself, he was busy communicating with Nevis. "Hello. I'm coming back. When you come back this time, how many people and things are you going to bring with you? How much weight and volume are you going to bring? How big of an airship does the council need to send to pick them up, and when will they pick them up? Of course, the Mage Tower on Long Island will not be demolished. After all, there are still people who will use it later. But, there has to be a place for me to work in Nevis. My own Mage Tower was built at level 3. Although it was considered high level at the time, it could only be used up to level 9. The Mage Tower in the hospital is even worse. It is a Mage Tower common to level 5 mages and can barely monitor the entire hospital. Now that I'm back, the original level 9 mage has now become level 18. Why can't I be given a good one? How long has it been since I received a regular allowance from the council? I have published so many papers in the parliament and acquired so many resources. The number of contribution points in my name should have exploded. How can I exchange for 2 mage towers? Also, do you want me to accept a disciple? There are now 2 disciples in total, and one of them is a natural priest. If you want me to accept disciples, get me a group of people quickly. Need some work on hand. Look, the person who wants resources is here again." Gretel's demand was quickly sent to the review committee, and then quickly passed from the review committee to the legendary mage, and then was thrown back to the committee from the legendary mage. The instructions of the legendary mages have only one central principle. Give him whatever he wants. A young, 18th level magician earns all the resources above level 9 by himself. Before level 15, he almost gets 1 level every year, and after level 15, he only gets 1 level every 2 to 3 years. This kind of legendary seed with unlimited talent, his needs are the highest priority in the parliament, almost the same as the legend. So now the pressure is on the side of the jury. Nordmark Mage, no, now Nordmark Archmage, his request is very simple. To expand your own Mage Tower, which is suitable for his current level, it is best to use half-step legend. The treatment after legend will be discussed separately. To expand the hospital Mage Tower, a high-level Mage Tower will suffice, but a shielding force field must be built around the Mage Tower to prevent too strong a magic field from causing harm to ordinary people, especially patients. To expand the hospital, the area should be at least doubled. This is the most convenient. The area is adjacent to the wilderness, so just allocate as much as possible, and a research center twice the size of the current one should be built on the expanded site. VIP. 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 Young spellcasters who are interested in healing should come to work in the hospital to get started. After receiving training from the hospital and becoming a level 5 healer, you must commit to serving in other places for 5 years. If the talent is good enough and he sees it, he may agree to take on a disciple. You don't have to worry about the last one at all. Archmage Rasul of the Change Department side. Young spellcasters, under 20 years old, below level 3, interested in healing, willing to serve ordinary people, no limit to the direction of spellcasting. In addition to the may be accepted as a disciple, if open to accept, at least half of the graduates of this magic academy will be willing to sign up, and the other half will know that they will definitely not be selected. However, if so many young spellcasters swarm in, other departments will jump up and roar. All the good seeds were snatched up by him. Even signing a magic contract and serving in other places for 5 years can't stop them. I'm not worried about this, the review committee member of the Department of Plastic Energy complained softly. Recently, the competition for people in the energy efficiency department has been very fierce. His Excellency, Crown of the Sun, is also recruiting a large number of people to work. What I am worried about now is, where can I find people to do this for him? There is a shortage of people, there is a shortage of people, there is a shortage of people everywhere. The Change Department is building airships like crazy, Sun Crown has built its third well of eternity, and municipal projects are being demolished and built. Archmage Nodmark wants to renovate the entire hospital, where can he get help? Thanks at bookfriend 20220116143423901 for the 100 starting coins reward. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1845. When the young man left home and his elder brother returned home, his local pronunciation remained unchanged and his hair on his temples faded. Greet can't be considered a young boy who ran away from home. After all, he was still in his 20s when he left Nevis and headed for the New World. In his previous life, he had finished graduate school. Of course, it cannot be regarded as a boss return. If he returns to Nevis's age, it would be appropriate to judge him as an outstanding young man in his previous life. Cough, for an 18th level great magician, compared to his previous life, he is definitely more than just an outstanding talent. Maybe the Yangtze River scholars are a bit low for him. Considering the legends of this world, if I were to compare myself to Nobel Prize scholars in my previous life. However, the most enviable and jealous thing is that Gretel has no signs of hair loss at all. When the airship arrived at the port, Aurora Wharton, Lin N, Master Norwood and other early followers came together to pick them up. They saw one person walking down from the airship, one walking down. How come you haven't changed at all? Aurora Wharton opened her eyes wide, feeling a little jealous. More than 10 years have passed, and he has gone from a young man in his early 20s to a man in his 40s. If it weren't for the fact that high-level mages generally age slowly, he would probably be considered a middle-aged man. Even so, his waistline has grown thicker, 1/3 of the hair on his forehead is missing, and he has shown the first signs of baldness. The blonde and blue-eyed young mage back then has become an uncle. And what about Greet? Greet still looks like the young man he was when he left, with a little bit of youthful air still remaining on his slightly baby-fat face. His face shape has not changed, his figure has not changed, and his hair has not changed. At a glance, it seems that time has passed on him, and no time has passed at all. He. Gretel's eyes were wandering, pretending to turn a blind eye to Oro's accusing gaze. Looking around at everyone, Lin N has not gained weight, and the mage level is relatively high, so he has not aged too much. He only looks 5 or 6 years older. Mr. Norwood was in a worse situation. This transformation magician was already in his early 40s when he came to him, and now he has become a little old man. Fortunately, life is going well and research is going well. Even the little old man is a chubby and cheerful little old man, with a happy-go-lucky smile on his face. As for the old Morgan who was sent by the god of war temple to treat his scoliosis and became his follower by the way, not to mention, the old man became more and more energetic. If I used to look like I was 65 years old, now I look like I am only 60 years old. So the main thing is the speed of advancement. If I advance quickly enough, the world loves me, nature loves me, and the world's gifts refine my body faster than the speed of time flowing through my body, then youth can stay. Of course, you can't say this kind of thing. If you say it, Oro will definitely fall out, and your friend will definitely have nothing to do. Therefore, Greet could only smile and find an irrelevant excuse. Maybe because, I'm half-elf. The corners of Aurora's mouth twitched, Aurora's eyelids twitched wildly, Aurora's fists were clenched and loosened, and then clenched again. Greet smiled, strode up to him, and hugged him hard. I haven't seen you for so many years. It's so nice to see you. After not seeing each other for more than 10 years, the mage badge on Aurora's chest has changed from 1 silver star to 3 gold stars. A 7th level magician has advanced to a 13th level magician, which takes an average of 1 level more than 2 years. Of course, his conditions are not comparable to others. Hosting the Mage Tower for Gretel, he has unlimited resources for him to conduct experiments. Archmage Carlyle and even other high-level mages from Thunderhorn help guide him, and he can lead him in the most cutting-edge research direction. Even so, his speed is not unsatisfactory. He is worthy of the Archmage Carlyle who took him under his tutelage. You know, Archmage Carlyle was the youngest disciple of the Lord of Thunder before Gretel. His criteria for accepting disciples were, even if you can't advance to legend, at least let me become a half-step legend. With such an advancement speed, you can still gain weight and become bald. This is purely a matter of body management and genes. You can't blame the slow advancement. Aurora took a deep breath and hugged back hard. The two hugged heavily, and Gretel walked towards Lin again, opening his arms. Brother Lin. Lin advanced faster than Aurora. He is already a level 15 Archmage. Over the years, Greed has been given quite a few subjects in the necromancy department. After Lin came back from the New World, his whole body was gripped by a sense of crisis. Instead of working the hardest, he could only work harder. At level 15, after crossing the natural chasm of the 8th ring, you can attack the 9th ring. One day you learn the 9th ring spell, and you can start to attack the legend. Greed smiled like a flower and hugged Lin hard, not rejecting the strong smell of formalin on his body at all. The only dissatisfaction I have is with Lin's figure. Brother Lin, you are too thin. Do you weigh 120 pounds now? 110 pounds? Not even 110 pounds. Brother Lin, even if you are a necromancer, you still have to eat. Take care of yourself. Lin ruffled his hair, reached over him, and reached out to Cyrilla and others. It's nerve-wracking. Little Gretel brought back a legendary elf ancient tree, and several half-step legends this time. I feel like my level is getting behind me. Even the big man Bernard is half a legend. I have to work harder. By the way, is that vampire half-step legend going to be placed in the Mage Tower? Does the defense of the Mage Tower need to be strengthened? Little Gretel is kind to everyone. In his eyes, there seems to be no bad people. He has to think about the students in the Mage Tower. Greed was pushed by him, took a big step forward, and stood in front of Mr. Norwood. This little old man, when he met Gretel, had been stuck at level 3 for more than 20 years, but now he has made great progress. There are enough resources and enough manpower. Just in the direction of rubber, he has made enough achievements and received enough feedback. Now, standing in front of Gretel was a 14th level Archmage, 1 level higher than Aurora. And the vigorous mental power in him made Gretel know. This very creative alchemist who had wasted the first half of his life has already reached the threshold of level 15. If he works harder, he can reach level 15 directly. Mr. Norwood. Gretel opened his arms with a smile. I'm so happy to see you. I'm even happier to see you achieve what you have now. Thank you for your hard work on my Mage Tower over the years. If you have any needs, please ask directly. Even if you want to be the apprentice of Legend Langer, I'll solve it.